Thank you, Aditya. Good afternoon, everybody. Last night I was preparing for this topic and I came across a reel on Instagram where one of the retired and known civil servant was in a conversation in a podcast, and he said something quite interesting, that the higher you go up in your organization, in the hierarchy at your workplace, you don't need any expertise. You need only one expertise, and that is of managing men and women. काम निकलवाना लोगों से. And I certainly recall people that I know at such positions, and I said, यार बात तो सही कह रहे. So, panelists, when we're talking about this leadership, which he said, managing people, mentoring people, taking people together when people are at positions of such leadership, how do you see technology coming into all of this? In the last 1.5 years, a lot of discussion, debate on use cases of these technologies. But I think this particular topic, at least what I understood, has more qualitative aspects than quantitative. And you may correct me on this. But in your opening remarks, Ashissh, if you would like to start, that what is that shift that we see when we are talking about leadership in this digital age with technology and innovation?
Sure. Thanks, Arjun. And I think, Vikram, you got your take. He's starting from me, that he's talking about. But good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, BW, for having us here. I think, like you rightly put in, Arjun, I think there is a new trait that's added in now. It's not just managing men and women, but I think also the art of continuing to learn. And especially when we talk about new technologies, to be a leader and not be ready to learn and, sort of get into this deep dive world of be it AI, machine learning is not going to do you good, because something or the other will surpass you very soon. But having said that, I think it's fairly important. It has put up a very significant, I would say, impact on the way the leaders are taking decision today. All of us know about, the analytics part. All of us know about data insights. We are also able to get, a lot of personalization at scale. So, I remember a case from my own organization, and I want to cite it. There are 3 leaders who are very important and had to take a decision. Now, each of them had a very different need for data to reach or arrive at that decision. One wanted only sales data, somebody wanted sales and the team that is working there. Somebody also wanted which time of the year, what happened in the past. So, we are able to personalize at a large scale with this new technologies, and the leaders are able to reach their decisions much more faster. And I think just beyond that, apart from the regular stuff, I also feel that a lot of the personalization biases, our risk issues are getting covered, because you can build in a lot of these checks and make sure your personal biases, your personal issues don't really come through when the data is analyzing something. So I feel, yes, a lot of significant impact and changes, Arjun, in the way the leadership is starting to think and take decisions.
You've touched quite a points, I think, and you'll be able to explain them further in our further questions. Monika, if your opening comments on this.
Yeah, so when we talk about technology, and I'm glad that you did not start with the AI because we are yet far away from there. So I believe that right now, most of the organizations are still working on to transform themselves, right? And adapting the technology as part of their day in, day out working, right? So it's very important for the leadership first to understand what's their need that this technology can fulfill. They should understand their need, and then accordingly, they should see how they can utilize this. It can be, as you touched upon, that they need to bring the change and be the change first. First, adapting the technology is very, very important. Change management is something which most of the time missing in most of the technological implementations. And if that is being managed well, I think technology can help us not only to coach people, train people, give a good set of, data analytics, predictive analysis, and they can touch upon also managing people across, not only within your geography, but across the geography. So that's something which, for me, important is change. If you are able to understand the change, understand your needs, I think it can be really helpful for anyone.
Thank you, Monika. Very rightly put. Pallavi, you want to add something to that and set the tone for this one?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
I think what to add, because everything has been covered by Ashish and Monika, because I mean, all of us understand technology and how important it is. So probably, we'll see how the conversation flow. But one thing I really want to talk about, that technology today, we cannot live without it. It is just that, it is up to us. And I think it is not only up to us sitting, all of us here, everybody sitting in this room, wherever we talk about, I mean, if we don't adapt it, we're just missing on to something. So now it is up to us. How do we understand that what's in it for me when it comes to technology? And then we start giving and talking about change management. So once it's up to us to accept.
Right. Vinay?
I think we need to understand this in a perspective. We've had technology upgraded itself in the last 20, 25 years, from technology not being there to technology at a very advanced level. On the other hand, leadership also is changing. Leadership used to be instruction-led, in the sense there used to be leaders who would say something and people would follow it, to now it being inspiration-led. You look up to your leaders to find inspiration. With Gen Y to Gen Z, the generations changing, they're looking at leadership very, very differently. Technology certainly aids in the transformation, in your ability to give those messages to people the way you want to lead, the way you want to inspire. So that's the role technology plays, and we'll talk about that in detail as we progress.
Right. Vikram, quickly, your opening remarks.
Yeah. So, I would add that, technology and leadership, I think essentially the essence is on the decision making, right? Today leaders have a lot of data and information. They have to harvest a lot of data and information. And how do they do it in the quickest and the most relevant, amount of time? So I believe, and then decisions could be on any aspect of the business, right? Efficiency, operational excellence, leadership, getting into newer products, newer services, newer markets. Could be anything. Decision could be anything. But essentially, I think technology to a leader, comes to the aid when they have to, do decision making. Yeah.
So, Vikram has set the tone, Ashish, for the next question, and that is, I'm not asking any about particular technology as yet, but from a macro lens, when we're talking about this topic, and particularly technology augmenting decision making for leaders, how would you go about that?
I think, Vinay had put up a very important point that technology is not something new, first and foremost. I think you'll be surprised, some of you, to know that, the generative AI that we talk about so much nowadays actually dates back to 1960s. That's when the initial chatbots were sort of being, thought about, built in. So the technology has definitely evolved, because, from a standpoint of processing speed and everything else, we've really, really come far away. It's very important also to understand what sort of need does a leader have. I think because you're talking about that, and I would want to clarify, there's two different sets of, when we talk about artificial intelligence, and we're just chatting about it outside, there's a discriminative AI and there is a generative AI. So these are two different type of AIs. When we talk about discriminative AIs, it's usually the chatbots that we have, we've been using. You can think of it as something, to put it in layman language. If you are at a party and you want to just see who are the people who are vegetarian, the chatbot will be able to decide that basis what dishes do they pick. So that's the input, and the output is very simple. It's a closed set. But generative AI is much more creative. Generative AI is, imagine now again you're a host of a party, but you now want to cater to a lot of people. So generative AI will be able to cater to everyone's need. It will make sure that there is variety of dishes so that everybody is taken care of. I think we need to understand, and both have their uses. It's not that. But from a leadership standpoint, like I earlier said, we are able to personalize at a large scale. We are able to do much more deeper data insights. A lot of predictive analysis has come into place. And for me, the biggest thing is that being in an organization like EVA, I think risk management is a very, very important part of our day-to-day job. And with AI and the generative AI, especially technology coming in, the risk management is something that we've been able to take care of. A lot of the issues and the errors which are more manual in nature, or the biases, those have sort of gone away. Now, having said that, it's not important that, it's not necessary that it's taken away everything. They tried doing this an example is they tried doing it in US, and they fed a system saying, okay, based on the picture of the person who's being evaluated in the court, can you identify if the person has committed the crime or not? Now, a lot of the people of color sort of got highlighted only because the past data had a lot of people from the color. So we also have to be careful of what sort of data is being put in, because then there could be biases that the system will automatically have on its own. So I think it's very important, a lot of significant changes, but we have to be cautious while we are at it.
Thank you, Ashish. Monika, how would you quantify the realm of technology when it comes to augmenting decision-making for leaders?
Yeah, so I'll again come back to my point that awareness is important, right? We have a lot of, Ashish mentioned, we have discriminative AI, we have, different kind of AIs available. What we really want from that available resources is important to know. When we are, decision making is very important, which is helping us. AI is helping us. The transformation we are conducting or different kind of tools are helping us for various support for decision making. However, I always believe garbage in, garbage out, right? Everything is working basis some data at the back end, and if that data is deviated for some reason, the output will never be correct. So it's very important for the leadership to understand the back end, gaps as well. You should be aware about what are the pitfalls, what are not, and if you are able to make that decision making and by utilizing that data as a support, don't make it as your primary source of decision making. You need to have some expertise and some support around to check upon that data and know that whether this information is correct or not. That validation is definitely needed. If we have that source and support in place, I think it's really, really supportive, because it help us in various data analytics, which were not available earlier easily. Predictive analysis, all the challenges and the opportunities at the right time. You're able to take decisions accordingly. You're able to take the right decision for the organization, for your teams. It also helps, as you mentioned, risk management is really important for every organization. You can easily identify that, okay, this is the risk which is coming up, and you can proactively act upon it instead of, post facto you are acting upon it. So all these kind of factors are really important. Additional to what Ashish mentioned, I believe collaboration and communication is also something which it has helped us, everyone, every organization and management team a lot.
Yes.
So these are the things I think we need to be aware of, what we need from it. We need to, and one thing is important, the right prompt of what you're asking for and what you're getting, and analyzing the gaps between that.
Very rightly said, especially, the thing about giving about prompts. I'll tell you, media as a company, when ChatGPT first emerged in November 2022, it was one of the industries where it was predicted that, especially for people who are on desk, especially in online, who are into content creation in our field, that we'll have a lot of job losses here. But a very senior journalist in the Hindu then said that the future, when it comes to journalists, belongs to those who are able to use AI effectively through these prompts, as you said. And, Frank, very God willing, we've not seen such losses, at least in this industry. Pallavi, discussion coming around AI as well. I talked about technology from a macro perspective, but I think this is what we are discussing. What are your thoughts when it comes to AI and leadership?
Yeah. I think something very nice thought you gave, and I really, though I'm not going to talk about AI leadership immediately, but something, when wheels were invented. So, a lot of time when you talk about jobs will go away. So I always keep thinking and talking to my team when wheels were invented, people suddenly spoke about that, because now wheels have come, the life has become, so it's going to be so easy, and so many people who were like taking carriages and everything, it will just go away. And then engines came, and then something came. And if you really see the economy, or I would say the employment, is just increasing. Now, for me also, when we talk about technology, when we talk about any AI, VR, AR, anything when you talk about, to me, I think something you've already said in your own conversation, that if we're using it effectively, we just look at how to be creative. There's nothing to worry about. Probably this is just going to make us more and more efficient, effective, and probably maybe help us grow much more. I think that is something really important part for me, and I really, really personally believe that. I mean, maybe a lot of times people say that, they're atrociously positive about any change that is bringing in, and I think that's what probably we may want to think about. And I think we've already covered about, what exactly is in it. So one maybe we want to be a little conscious about, and a lot of other regions or geographies have become, is data security. So we may talk about so much of, the benefit coming from it. It is going to help take decisions, everything. But security will become very important. One example I just remember, and from where data security and probably becomes more important. Most of our tools today, we know you just put your resume inside and it'll just, give you pass, fail, everything, and it will come immediately. Now, I was actually working on one of the assignment for a UK thing, and it is so strong in security that that age factor probably I picked it up. Though, probably I just picked it up. I kind of, did a bit of my own math and picked up age. And then I realized that, I cannot even use that particular simple thing. And immediately my code and everything was scrapped because age was picked up. Age is a sensitive information, and it talks about security. Now, I can create a biases, what you just spoke about. The color was picked up. So I think data security, for us to also understand that, how in this environment we should work on the security, garbage in, garbage out, what we are feeding in. So for us to be mature enough to understand and, receive an input, that is going to be another hell of a work and hell of a learning.
Very rightly put, and we'll come into the question about ethical considerations and having that human-machine synergy as well. But Vinay, you would like to add something to it?
I think the rise in artificial intelligence should not give rise to natural stupidity. We have a brain of our own and we have to use that. What happens with analysis paralysis, we get a lot of data, we get very excited, but we forget to interpret data, which is a very basic skill of a leader, of how he or she is interpreting what data is being presented, to the leader. What's important is today you have a lot of tools that aids in giving you information in a very fancy way. It gives you data cuts, it gives you ability to look at data very colorfully, but that does not mean that it should take away your ability to a natural sense of judgment as a leader, to see what I want to look at and what I don't want to look at. Most leaders fail here when they get excited with these data sets and they are not able to really interpret data. And that's a caution that all of us need to understand if you're looking at how leaders can look at data. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Vikram?
Very quickly, when we're talking about the technology, I think, when you see an ATC tower, in an airport, it has a very vantage sort of a position. It knows what exactly is happening, in the vicinity, which aircraft is coming in, which is going, which is in the taxiway, right? So from a decision-making perspective, a control tower is extremely critical, in an organization where a leadership, somebody in the leadership role, and CXO role, has that control tower kind of an ability. It could be an AI, it could be, the organization has, it could be a legacy system as well, which aids in the decision-making process. I mean, AI, of course, is a buzzword. We all talk about it, AI, VR, AR, Meta, right? So I think, other than the fancy terms, I mean, we now, at least in the AI space, we've started seeing some test cases, and we know that, it is already, beginning to enter our lives, professional lives and personal lives. Along with it, it also creates, you are able to harvest more data, you are able to consume more data, you're consuming more data than you need, right? So from a leadership perspective, in an organizational setup, the ability to filter out what you don't need, and, to retain what exactly do you need. So, which depends on, what models you are choosing, so refusing to use AI in a certain context is also a decision, right? So, and when we talk of job losses, or, get people getting anxious about AI taking away their jobs and all that, I think if you look at the history of evolution, even if you don't go, too far into the the history, just 20, 30 years, when let's say computers came, or when Excel probably, MS Office came, or when let's say iPhone came, and the world knew something like an app store, right? It did not take away any jobs, So with every technological evolution, it also creates more jobs, right? So when let's say this app store came, a new job family got created, app developers. Today there's that job is so hot right now. So same with the AI, it's an evolution tipping point. It will move into our work lives, and it will. I have a positive view about that. It will create more jobs than what we should worry.
Thank you, Vikram. Ashish, bringing to what Pallavi was mentioning around ethical considerations and what would be a right path for developing that human-machine synergy in this context. You would like to share something on that?
I think very, very tricky question, Arjun, frankly, because I don't think there is any one answer that fits definitely on this. We have to be cautious at all times. I think we spoke about if it's garbage in, it's going to be garbage out. But the only difference, as I was earlier saying about generative AI, because it's able to, I think Sora is the latest version. A lot of you would have heard about it. It's coming in, and its ability to make videos in a few seconds based on just the prompts is just unparalleled, And with so much so happening in the creative field of music, writing, imagery, videos, we just need to make sure that our, is there checks and balances at the other side of it or not? We were talking outside, all of us were standing, and we were talking about plagiarism. Now, how do you identify for a school goer, for a college goer, for somebody even doing doctorate, that what is being written by them or not? So I think while we are working very, very cautiously towards, let's bring in this to our work, we also need to be very, we have to ensure and be very, very sound and safe measures have to be put into place so that the checks are there at the end. It could be another tool. It could be another AI. But I think it is important, unless until we do that, I think there's a lot of biases that could come in. And given the generative AI works more on creative side rather than accuracy, the chances of error are also very high. So, that's something that we need to be cautious about.
Thank you, Ashish. Monika?
That's my favorite topic, by the way. So, everyone, how many of you are using ChatGPT nowadays? I see many hands, right? And if we talk about ChatGPT, everyone is using it. But I'm not sure if they are aware about that. ChatGPT basically pick up the information from wherever it is available, compile it, and share it with you based on the prompt you set up. And that information, whether it's authentic or not, that's a big question, right? If there's some information incorrect, you'll pick up the incorrect information and you will pass it on. So I have started last year onwards, I've started my PhD, and I was working on one of my assignments, scientific misconduct. And that's where the plagiarism question came in. So those who don't know what plagiarism is, if you are copying somebody else's work without citing them, that is what it's kind of, stealing somebody's work, right? So most of the AI, if you are using ChatGPT or any other similar tool, is that only, and you don't know where ChatGPT is picking up that information. You cannot even cite that. And during that, assignment, I also found out, I searched some articles and I found out that one of the well-known university, they copied somebody else's strategic plan and they picked it up through this kind of tool only. There was a president of some country, obviously I cannot take names here, who has to resign because his research papers were found, copied from somewhere because he used AI tool to pick up that information. A lot of research papers get rejected because of the language is picked up from the ChatGPT. So that's where we are getting paralyzed, I feel. While we are using it, how to use it and how to follow the ethics in using such kind of tools is really important. As you were talking about losing the jobs. Nowadays, because it's very nascent stage, nobody understands the repercussions of it, and that's why people are losing the job. But it will also create job, as one of my fellow colleague said, because you need somebody to validate the authenticity and the correctness of that information. You cannot just pick up and utilize it. So it is really, really important that we look upon these aspects and we have some people who are checking these authenticities. Otherwise, now it can lead to a legal, implications as well at times.
Very rightly put. And
Yeah.
these checks are important. I'll tell you one incident from one of my friends who works in one of the newspaper publications. So there was this time around last year when Reliance Capital was, in the process of being insolvent process was going on. And he, instead of Reliance Capital, wrote Reliance, just Reliance. Now imagine if that news would have gone unpublished, unchecked and got published, the shareholding value, what it would have done in the market for those, even though, it would have been there for 5 minutes. So clearly, this is something that is to be looked upon. Pallavi, you would like to share something?
I think it's such a sensitive topic, and everybody kind of, echoes the kind of, it brings. But what I really think is that probably if we sometimes be little authentic to ourselves. We also know that for what are we using it? Am I using it for my growth? Am I using it for my learning? Am I using it for influencing the person? What is that? Exactly. So, now here, the little softer values is probably nowhere we can see, none of the chat GPTs or technology, and that is where the personal connect will talk about is, will the person trust me also or not? Now, probably if we, I think from technology, I'm bringing the real behavioral part, and that is why all of us will continue to be employed, and that is why all of us will continue to be there. So we all know there's so much of information coming, but then where am I using it, and am I authentic to use it in a right way? So probably the way, I think something what Monika touched upon was awareness part of it. So if that right awareness is done to everybody, that there's no harm in using it. Obviously, we knew that we need that information which is very fast, but how am I presenting it? Where am I using it for my school studies? Will I have that guilt within myself or not? So that guilt automatically there, ultimately I've cheated it. So this will be there. So maybe that's what I can really talk over and above what my fellow colleagues have just spoken of.
Right. Thank you, Pallavi. Vinay, quickly your comments on this.
See, as far as ethical question is concerned, the matter is settled. There are global data protection laws which clearly state, and to what Pallavi was saying on one of the algorithms that caught age, it clearly states what you can do and what you cannot do. So there you'd be, and to what Monika was saying, awareness. You need to be aware. Not knowing the law doesn't mean you get the license to kill somebody. It's as simple as that. So you should know what it is, and you should know how to use it. As far as the usage of somebody else's information or using these tools to pass it off as something that you have created, I think even a first standard child will tell if it is right or wrong. You have a moral compass. You really don't need somebody to come and preach you at your working age what is right, how to establish what is right, what is wrong. And to a very well-made point on authenticity, nobody's going to come and teach you how to be authentic, right? Today, there is a fad of everybody being on social media, writing articles, showing off as their own, which is not even half the time their own. And thank God to LinkedIn now changing their algorithms. We see a lot better content, on what we see. But the problem is everybody wants to be wannabes. Everybody wants the social attention, if I may say. Everybody wants to be there, and therefore they'll talk artificial intelligence, they'll talk generative AI, they'll talk all the buzzwords. They don't even know what it means half the time, but everybody will speak all of these buzzwords because you want to feel belonged. So I think that is an area which is a gray area, which definitely needs to be introspected upon by individuals. But as far as ethics is concerned, it's very clear and settled.
Thank you. Vikram, how do you see leadership being approaches inculcating these ethical considerations and having that human machine synergy in decision making?
So actually, by the time my turn comes, all the good points have been taken, No, but feel free to start with, Ashissh. See, what we were discussing, I think it's not a new dilemma. The moral compass of right or wrong, just because we are starting using AI is not a new challenge that you face. I see so many students here, and if you get an assignment of writing, let's say on Maslow's theory, or let's say Newton's laws, or any established theory, you call it Newton's law, you call it Maslow's theory, right? You don't say, hey, I've paraphrased it, it's my theory now, right? You don't do that. So even with the AI is just a tool that you have, because it allows you to do more and less, right? It builds efficiency in what you do. And through efficiency you have more time, so you can do more with less. And this is where the world is heading. Even in the corporate setting, you're required to do more with less, because you have more tools at your place. When computers came, you could do more with less, right? When let's say you were, you started using HRIS tools, you could do more with less, right? So, so from that standpoint, just because AI has come into our lives today, work or personal lives, it does not pose any immediate, it does not pose a new question, you always used to say, this is somebody's work, this is somebody's theory, right? In a corporate setting, some of the examples that you gave, of course, and awareness is the key, that, when people are using it, are you using it carelessly or recklessly, we had that example, I don't know the exact thing, but I think Samsung's employees used ChatGPT to do some research, and those answers, ChatGPT learned that, and then some of the sensitive project that they were doing, it came out in the in the open, in the public, right? So some of those things. Second is AI. If you use, let's say even ChatGPT, everybody uses it is referencing the available knowledge and just paraphrasing it, or maybe in a faster way, giving you, depending on the prompt you're doing. So it is not creating new knowledge per se. It is referencing what is available, and and then giving it to you. So from that standpoint, using it in a corporate setting, of course, if you ask me, I preach people in my office or my team to use AI as much as they can, because if it's okay, you have to probably paraphrase a policy or a framework, or you have to write an email, of course, why do you have to reinvent the wheel? Why do you have to start from scratch? Why do you have to spend 30 minutes or 1 hour on doing something, So the redundancies are coming in those, in the approach, in how you think, in how you approach your work, right? So, I think I can close off.
So I'll start with you only, Vikramjit. We'll have 5 minutes left now. All of you, in 1 minute, you're pinpointing the trend that would define the next set of leaders, that would mold the next set of leadership in the arm of technology. One big trend, if you will, through technology, is when you're talking about enhancing leadership through technology and innovation. What would be that one thing in your understanding, in your assessment?
So, it is kind of cliched now that when we say leaders have to, have to understand data, right? It is a given. They have to understand data. They need that data to make, the decision making as a process. But that is still the biggest challenge that I see in leadership using data is predicting, So when we talk of, when in the B schools, you look at case studies, case study is something which has happened in the past. You're just, doing a postmortem of what that person could have done, what decision went wrong, right? But you have to take a decision, maybe 6 months down the line, there'll be a case study, really doing a postmortem of the decision you're taking today, right? So the ability of a leader to really look at all the information that is available to them, leveraging technology as a tool, because they can do more with less, and having that conviction, So in a good time, you take a decision, it goes good or bad, doesn't matter. But if there's a crisis, even if you are able to take a decision which gives you a 10% or 20% edge, and you are spot on, looking at that insight, that is the game changer,
Right.
So technology and decision making, is something that I
Thank you, Vikram. So Vinay, your quick take on this.
won't take 1 minute. I'll just make one statement. I think the more we have technology coming into our lives, the more emphasis in the next decade or so is going to be on human relations. It's going to be on people-to-people contact. It's going to be on your ability to connect with your colleagues and your teams. That's going to be the buzzword, and the next decade or so, it's going to be more so.
Thank you, Vinay. Pallavi?
I think I have a little different point here. With leadership, as a leadership, I think the trend for me is going to be accept that I don't know more. The younger generation coming knows more technology than me. So probably raise your hand and ask questions. Probably they can give you better prompts than what you can do that. So I think for me, that's the trend.
Monika?
So for me, from the leadership perspective, I think it's important that they become the change leader first. Definitely technology is there. We should utilize it. They should know where to utilize it. Technology can be utilized best when you have a lot of repeated steps. You have a lot of jobs which have a repeated, process is set and it is process driven. Whosoever is designing the process, if you ask maybe the AI to design a process, then it should be that you are designing it and then check with AI, okay, I've designed this process. Do you think there's any gap in the process? So I was, listening to one of the talk, and the leader said that I utilize it only to check on the gaps in the work I have done. Because if it is a strategic, it needs to be strategic, it needs to be creative, and I cannot expect AI to be creative is if I'm not prompting it rightly with the correct information and with the correct ask. And that's where it needs a connection and collaboration between both. So leaders should define what is, for what we can use the technology, for what we cannot. That should be clearly there. And definitely communication is something which is really, nowadays a lot of leaders are utilizing to communicate across the boundaries. I think that's the thing which is really helping everyone.
Thank
and
you.
leaders should look forward for that.
Thank you, Monika. Ashish, how would you sum this up?
I think, Arjun, with the advent of technology, one big change that is definitely coming through is leadership. In terms of leadership style is what I'm talking about. It's going to be much more authentic than it was before, with social media and, you just can't faff around anymore, as they say. You need to be very authentic. Also, you need to be very direct. A lot of intermediaries in between have gone away. The channel of communication is open up. The leaders are interacting directly with the larger population of either of employees, customer base. So not only do they have to gloat about successes, they also have to accept about failures. So there is a lot of transparency and authenticity first and foremost that has come in the leadership style. The other is obviously it's become more direct, like I said, because it's one-to-one now. You don't need a lot of people to reach out to the last level. And I think because of all this, it will be very genuine. A lot of the conversations or the messaging would be more personalized, more genuine, and more authentic. I think that's the change I see in the leadership.
Thank you, panelists, so much. We have 2 minutes left. Do we have any questions from the audience? Mike, did you?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, panelists. My question is that how AI can replace humans in future? Because we are listening that AI will replace humans, and how much this particular statement is true, and whether it is true or not. I want your opinion, and yeah.
I think all of the panelists did cover that this is not going to happen, but if anybody wants to take and give a more in-depth answer to that.
So I think I did mention that probably nobody can replace human. So obviously everybody has their views, but I gave it this one example also when things came in. Computers. I think very recent example when I gave that computers came in and we said, okay, now everything is so fast and suddenly everything will go away, jobs will go away, people will just the clerks will move out. The jobs got refined. Rather, I would say a lot of value got added to everybody's job. So I'm sure nobody sitting here will hear any more clerical jobs and are left in the in the entire system anymore. I mean, the jobs have become much more refined, much more better, much more purpose-driven. So I think probably I would, in my opinion, with AI coming, with whatever technology tools coming, more and more jobs will become purposeful, purpose-driven, and probably more motivating and satisfying.
Right.
Maybe I want to add on to this. So AI can replace human only if humans are not upgrading them. It's really important to unlearn and relearn continuously now in this phase, in this era. It's really important that you're continuously upgrading yourself with the new technology coming in and the new need for the organization that is coming in. Somebody who is not changing themselves, who is not unlearning and relearning and, continuous upgradation is not there, that human definitely will get replaced by AI. So that's the message.
Thank you.
You had that question? Yeah. Will that be teaching?
My question is for Ashish sir. Sir, how you relate technology with leadership? Okay, I think we spoke a lot about it. The entire panel was more or less on that. But I think just to paraphrase as ChatGPT does, I would say that leadership and technology is going to go hand in hand, first and foremost. And it is important to keep upskilling yourself. We were talking about that some time back. You can't really run away from it. The other important thing is that you have to change the leadership style. That's what I was talking about. Technologies will keep coming in. Just that you need to start becoming more approachable, more open for change. Also be able to, somebody mention, be ready for reverse mentoring, as we call it, wherein the juniors are able to teach the CEOs or the CXOs. I think these are some of the leadership style changes or behavioral changes that should come through. Other than that, I think, things are fine. We should not worry.
I think if they're all students, they'll soon be looking at the job market, so they do have their apprehensions. But you heard it from the leaders. Upskill karte rahiye, koi aapko nahi hata payega. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank you, sir.
the audience, for joining us this afternoon. Can we please have a big round of applause? Thank you.